Hello everybody, this is Kirby over yonder, and now that we've discussed what makes Adventure Time Season 1 unique, I think now's the correct time to rank its top 10 episodes. I actually don't know what episodes this season are generally considered to be fan favorites, so for all I know, I could have completely unpopular opinions. But that's the fun with Season 1, there's not really a general consensus on what the best episodes are, so each person's top 10 list probably looks very different from each other. But enough stalling, here are my top 10 episodes of Adventure Time Season 1. At number 10, we have Slumber Party Panic. Okay, I'll address the elephant in the room. Slumber Party Panic is very inconsistent with the rest of the series. The idea of the candy people exploding when they get scared was dropped after this episode, and the characterization of the Gumball Guardians is completely different. Luckily, the inconsistencies don't actually bother me all that much. The candy people exploding when they get scared adds an interesting dynamic to the episode, since not only does Finn have to worry about the zombies, but he also has to worry about the candy people seeing the zombies. The episode does a great job backing Finn in a corner, really testing his abilities. The whole rave scene is easily my favorite part of the episode. Not only is it super fun, but it's also a genuinely creative solution to this problem. There's also something very darkly funny about seeing the candy people eat the remains of dead candy citizens. Like, this is basically cannibalism. Sure, the ending sorta comes out of nowhere, but I like how much it shakes up the story. It keeps the audience on their toes. The moment you think Finn's in the clear, suddenly this whole new problem shows up. I've heard some people argue that Slumber Party Panic is not a good first episode of Adventure Time, to which I disagree. I think that Slumber Party Panic does a good job showing us the kind of chaotic and unpredictable hijinks we can expect from Adventure Time. If a Mr. Cupcake nude scene doesn't hook you, then what does? At number 9, we have Henchmen. I think what's so fun about Henchmen and what makes it so special is that it gives us a dynamic that we can't get from any other episode of Adventure Time. Since this is only Marceline's second appearance, Finn, and to an extent us the audience, don't really know what her deal is yet. It's fun to see Marceline mess with Finn, make him expect her to do something evil, only to pull back and reveal that it was actually completely innocent the whole time. You'd think this dynamic would get repetitive, however, Marceline is such an inherently fun character that her personality really carries the whole thing. The more the series goes on, the more Marceline will continue to significantly soften up as a character. And this isn't a bad thing, I really like what they do with her in later seasons. But I can't deny how much fun the morally gray Season 1 Marcy is either. Her fisherman song is probably the best example of this, having incredibly dark and messed up lyrics, but being sung in a very soothing way. Just beautiful juxtaposition. We also get significantly less Finn and Marceline hangout episodes as the series goes on, so this episode is very unique in that sense as well. Also, Jake's subplot in this episode is just adorable. How he gets so scared of Marceline, the way he gets so excited when he thinks he saved Finn. I mean, just look at his cute little strawberry costume. Tell me that's not adorable. Henchmen is just a fun episode and a great time all around. Oh, you did not just tell me to hench. At number 8, we have Ricardio the Heart Guy. Okay, Ricardio himself carries this episode. How overly detailed his face is, combined with George Takei's booming voice, makes for a really memorable villain. I'm honestly kinda surprised they only brought him back once. And no, being a part of the Candy Kingdom haters doesn't count. But seriously, I love just how overdramatic this guy is, as well as his meaningless science talk with Princess Bubblegum. But this is also a very atmospheric and cinematic episode. I love the opera-like music that plays when Finn and Jake are spying on Ricardio. The fight scene at the end is very well choreographed. The fact that Ricardio is so small means we get a bunch of different camera angles. And the story in general is very well told. The episode does a good job setting up the Ice King from the start. Then it makes us forget about him for a little bit when we're introduced to Ricardio. So when Ricardio is eventually connected back to the Ice King, it doesn't feel jarring or out of place. Ricardio the Heart Guy is just a very tightly written episode that gets a lot of things right. At number 7, we have His Hero. I think what I find to be the most impressive thing about his hero is the way it uses its incredibly simple story to get across very interesting and nuanced themes. I like the way this whole non-violence argument is framed through Billy, this old jaded hero who Finn and Jake look up to. It really helps challenge Finn and Jake's beliefs. The episode also gets some good mileage out of seeing Finn and Jake partake in all these odd jobs. Love this scene here with LSP. And the episode never feels like it's condemning pacifism either. It's more about Finn and Jake finding their own way to solve problems. Sure, violence isn't the only answer, but sometimes you're not given any other options. The show would continue to discuss the theme of violence versus non-violence much later on to its run, but I still really like what they did with it here. Also, Billy in general is just a really cool character. I love the idea of a washed-up hero, and I feel like it could have led to some more interesting stories. I kinda wish they didn't kill him off so quickly. His hero is a fascinating episode that manages to portray nuanced themes without sacrificing its sense of fun. At number 6, we have City of Thieves. City of Thieves is great because of its concept. The idea of an entire city of people stealing from each other is just brilliant. I love this sequence with all the different characters stealing Penny's flower basket. It's super fun and creative. There's a ton of unique character designs in this one too that really helps it stand out. I also quite like the character of Penny. The whole her being a thief twist is great because it's not super obvious that that's where the episode is going, but it doesn't come out of nowhere either. You can actually pick up a few hints if you watch the episode closely enough. I love the sort of dingy aesthetic to the city itself. It gives off a very different vibe when compared to most other Season 1 locations. And speaking of aesthetics, I love how Finn and Jake get all dirty once they've stolen. It's a really cool symbolic detail. And it's really fun when Finn finally decides to just embrace the city and he gets all dark. Ultimately, City of Thieves isn't the episode with the best story or the most interesting characterizations. It's simply a testament to how much a fun concept can carry a whole episode. At number 5, we have Dungeon. The episode that inspired the trend of characters exploring a dungeon. But what I love about the Season 1 example is the Finn and Jake dynamic. How much Finn needs Jake and how much Jake needs Finn. The two really do work best together, but it's still fun seeing Finn traverse this dungeon on his own. Each time Finn fails, he's able to pick himself right back up, which prevents us from feeling like we're just watching Finn suffer for 10 minutes. I love the cat with approximate knowledge. He's probably my favorite Season 1 one-off character. They do so many great jokes with how he almost knows everything. He has a really cool design too, and is able to pose a genuine threat while still being really funny. The dungeon itself is also really cool looking. Love the level of detail used in this area in particular. The Bucket Knight and Guardian Angel are also very fun villains, even if they're not on the same level as the cat. Dungeon is a great celebration of Finn and Jake's friendship, while also starting one of my favorite trends in Adventure Time. Also, that ending is just absolutely perfect. At number 4, we have Evicted. Evicted is iconic. It's one of the most memorable episodes from the first season. And why shouldn't it be? It's the first ever Marceline episode. She makes a very strong first impression. I love the way she tricks Finn and Jake into thinking she's cool, only to immediately throw them out. There's a real sense of mystery to her character, like we don't completely know what her deal is yet, that makes her really fun to watch. But easily, the most memorable part of this episode is the song. This house hunting song is easily my favorite song in the first season, and it's not even really a competition. Ward's singing just adds so much charm here. And this montage gives us some really cool set pieces. For as simple as it is, I really like Jake's song in the episode too. Sure, the whole home is where the heart is message is kinda corny, but it's sweet to know that these two will always be happy as long as they have each other. It's sweet as long as you pretend that Together Again doesn't exist. The climax of this episode is awesome. Marceline's giant bat form is super intimidating. Sure, the whole fake out death scene might be a little cheap, but I love seeing just how angry Finn gets. A wonderful performance by Jeremy Shada. Evicted is an extremely solid introduction to one of Adventure Time's most memorable characters. No wonder it's a fan favorite. At number 3, we have What Have You Done? What Have You Done is easily the most atmospheric episode of Season 1. I love just how gloomy the Candy Kingdom is, what with all the fog and the dark color palette. It sets the scene for the rest of the episode perfectly. I love the sort of moral dilemma that Finn and Jake are put in here. Sure, PB is technically right in that the Ice King didn't do anything, but there's clearly more to the story that Finn and Jake are unaware of. So the two have to decide whether or not they're morally in the right for keeping the Ice King locked up. But of course, it's also an Ice King episode, and Ice King always brings the funny. I love the whole mirror bit, it gets me every time. And Ice King pointing out that there are only 2 bars is a pretty great gag as well. The climax of this episode is very creative too, where Finn and Jake have to get the Ice King to howl without physically hurting him. It's a fun setup that leads to some great jokes like the Ice King being too nervous to howl. What Have You Done excels in its atmosphere and its relatively complex storytelling. It's easily one of the most unique episodes of Season 1. At number 2, we have Ocean of Fear. Ocean of Fear has a lot of things going for it. I love this sort of personal journey for Finn. How his simple fear of the ocean can just work him up so badly. Poor Jake takes such a beating in this one. Even if not all his methods are ideal, I like seeing Jake genuinely try and help Finn overcome his fear. It really shows just how much Jake cares about Finn, that he's willing to get beat up so many times just to help his friend out. This is easily one of the best looking Season 1 episodes. I'm a bit of a sucker for some good underwater visuals, and this episode has them in spades. I love this overly detailed shot of Finn floating in the water, and do I even need to mention this beautiful sequence? The Fear Feaster is also pretty great, such a memorable character. Mark Hamill does a fantastic job voicing him, and I love how much his constant presence beats down on Finn. And I love that at the end of the day, Finn doesn't actually conquer his fear. He just learns that everyone has flaws and that being afraid of the ocean doesn't make him less of a hero. This level of nuance makes the story a lot more interesting than just Finn conquering his fear. Ocean of Fear came very close to topping this list, however there's just one episode that I like a little bit more. And my favorite Adventure Time Season 1 episode is What Is Life? Okay, elephant in the room, What Is Life is the episode that introduces Neptr, one of my absolute favorite characters in all of Adventure Time. Neptr is just adorable. Despite how much the world craps on him, he remains one of the most genuinely happy and optimistic characters in the series. Neptr is the best. I'm a Neptr guy. I also love these one-off balloon characters and their weird non-sequiturs. Yay, to the Mesosphere! This is also the first time we really get to explore the Ice Kingdom itself. It's really fun seeing Finn and Neptr sneak around and try not to get caught, as well as how the Ice King's pets just fail him at every turn. But what I really love about this episode is the dynamic between the Ice King and Neptr. This is one of the first times we really get to see some humanity in the Ice King. He genuinely seems to care for Neptr and wants to give him a good life. He just doesn't seem to understand that capturing princesses is not an okay thing to do. He's just a sad, lonely guy who just wants people to care about him. The episode ends on a very somber note, with the Ice King imagining himself watching the sunset with Neptr. It's very bittersweet and probably my favorite scene in all of Season 1. What Is Life has just about everything I could want out of a good Adventure Time episode. It's funny, it's a fun adventure, it introduces Neptr, one of my favorite characters, and it adds a layer of complexity to one of my other favorite characters, the Ice King. It's just great. So those were my top 10 episodes of Season 1. Please let me know what your favorite episodes are in the comments. Like I said before, there isn't really a common consensus on what the best episodes are this season, so I'm curious to see what you guys have to say. Kirby, out.